this. You know, when you arrange to have a speaker come in, you're kind of taking a pig in the poke. Nothing. You know, you're not really sure what you're going to get. And I spoke to Patrick on the phone a couple of months ago, and I think I'm calling an American in San Francisco to help us out. And it turns out he's a Canadian. So already things are looking good. So yesterday he came and he did this session, and I think the true measure of how much you're going to enjoy this is he spoke to us for 2 hours, and at the end of the 2 hours, the audience stampeded a table of books that he had over his side, waving money, and they all disappeared. So that truly tells you how much information he delivered and how valuable people found it. So without further ado, I'll introduce, we're really privileged to have this guy. I also want to make a little apology for him. He's really in demand, and he's going to have to leave exactly at 10:30, scoot over to the airport, and head out to his next gig. So I'm sure some of you can sympathize with that. You've probably done that in your calling careers. But he won't be able to stay around afterwards and kind of chat with you, have lunch with us or anything. So without further ado, Patrick, work there.
What I'd like to do is read out all the names of everyone who came yesterday and stand for the name. Please hold your applause until I read all the people that attended. Wow. You know, it's pretty cool. You guys recognize, I mean, there was a lot of, it was amazing. So, and having people come to 41 conferences in a row, I'm 43 years old, so it's pretty inspiring. But seriously though, and I will ask for you to kind of play along with me here, it's only going to take 3 or 4 seconds. But for the benefit of the people who did not come yesterday, if you were here yesterday, can you just stand up so everyone sees who was here? Okay. So thank you. You can sit down. That's all I wanted. But the point is that we had this big session yesterday, and for me, the challenge was normally in a situation where you speak twice, you kind of get a chance to do like the fun stories first, and then you do kind of the deep dive second and go into a bit more detail. In this case, those 2 sessions were in the opposite order, which is totally fine. But the point is that yesterday we went into some specifics, kind of the how-to of doing some of this stuff online, and today it's a little bit different. Today's a little more about, I got a bunch of great stories about different things that people have done, that businesses have done, that have actually worked. I said this yesterday, but for those of you who were here yesterday, there's a couple things I'm going to say that I said before. I have a couple of slides that are the same, but I have them in both presentations because I think they're important. But yesterday I said, there's 140 million people on Twitter today. You think most of those people are just wasting time?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know that technology is not necessarily a native skill set for many of you. I'm 43, so I didn't grow up with this stuff either. I had to learn it. So I had some for children or grandchildren, they just grew up with it and they just think that way. But for many of us, that's not the case. But I'll tell you something, there's an opportunity. There are people who are changing their lives. There are people who are changing their industries by using some of these technologies. So let's first off, I have to say, I think Barry did, some of the drummer, clicker isn't working again. So, no, it should be fine. It's just the clicker. Give me 1 second, you guys. Well, look at that. My entire computer is frozen. Are you kidding?
Technology.
Holy smokes. Guys, that's unfortunate. Give me a second here.
How many has that happened to?
Yeah. Please stand.
Please stand. Hold your applause.
Harry Potter.
All right, we did it. It just sat there for a few minutes and it froze. And I'm supposed to be in technology, too. Isn't that crazy? I thought Barry did a nice job pronouncing my last name. My last name's got 13 letters in it, so I made a slide about it. For those of you who are curious, my last name is pronounced Schwartfeger. Come on, guys.
Schwartfeger.
Genius. I live in California, so I probably should have run for governor. It's a striking resemblance. All right, that's what you call a cheesy opener right there. Oh, it's fun. All right, so here's the bad news, and this is one of the slides that's repeated, but I think it's important. This is the search volume, the number of people across the entire country that are searching for either square dance or square dancing. Okay, square dance or square dancing on Google over the course of 10 years, 2004, and it is down a whopping 60% over the course of 10 years. That's pretty sobering right there. But there's another side to this coin, and this is another thing that I repeated, but it's important. The simplicity of this is really important to grasp. Nobody's talking about it because nobody's talking about it. That's it. And the genius of this event, which is not very common, is that we got the whole industry right here. It's you guys. It's you guys. And you're all from different parts of the country, some of you from Canada, Germany, Japan, wherever you're from. We got the whole industry right here. It's a huge opportunity. If all of you did just one or two little things, this can turn around. It's just a question of content. Right? There's a direct correlation on the internet. The amount of content that's out there is directly correlated to the amount of people talking about the subject. It is a direct correlation. So the moral of the story is going to be the same throughout the presentation, is share your passion. This is your hobby. You can't not wait for someone else to do this for you. This is about leadership. It's about taking ownership of your hobby. You come to an association like this, a meeting every year for 40 years. That is awesome. But the rest of the world has to see that passion. And they have to see that love of it that you have. And I'll tell you what, we radiate our emotions. If you are excited about something and you are talking to someone, they're going to get excited because you're excited. And you can do that digitally just as well as you can do it in person. It's just a question of sharing content. So what I have for you today is a number of social media case studies. Okay? Essentially, they're success stories. Different things that people have done and businesses have done in social media that actually work. Now look, they're from all over the place. They're not square dance case histories. There aren't that many case histories. I did look, didn't find a whole lot. But every one of these case histories has something. Here's the thing, and this happens every time. This is what I do. I love what I do for a living, but it's this sort of stuff. And people come afterwards, and it turns out that different people in different parts of the room had completely different ideas of what they could do with the information that we share together. Okay, that's the way it should be. You don't all have to do the same thing. Do whatever you want. Everyone's going to have different ideas. These are very broad case histories, so just think, what could you do? What could we do? Could we do something like that? And I'll ask you throughout. I'll try and pepper it, trying to get you to think about some ideas. But let's jump right in. So Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, they went to introduce their Harry Potter theme park. They could have spent millions. No shortage of money, right? But they chose not to. Instead, they reached out to 10 bloggers, the 10 biggest bloggers in the Harry Potter niche. Okay? They reached out, listen, they reached out to people who had influence over their target market. Who has influence over your target market? We've only got an hour together, so just think, how does it relate? Okay, every story, same thing. Who has influence over your target? So they invited these 10 bloggers to an exclusive invite-only webinar, okay, which actually had the designers and creators of the Harry Potter movie series on the webinar. Okay, now you got to understand, like, these people, these designers and creators have won like Academy Awards. Okay, so these bloggers, these are like heroes. So the bloggers had an incentive to attend. Okay, which is incredible because of the 10, only 7 showed up, which gives you an idea how egotistical most bloggers are. That's a different story. They're all king of their own castle. Maybe some of us know how that feels. because they're the king of their blog, right? And so that you get some of these folks are pretty entitled, but that's okay. So 7 showed up, and by the way, the webinar started at midnight. So they really tailored it for these bloggers, because they're up in the middle of the night, right? So the thing starts at midnight, it goes on for 90 minutes, so 1:30 in the morning it's over. What happens? Well, they start sharing it, right? Because now they're cool, right? Because they've got the inside scoop. So they start sharing it, and all their friends, they're up in the middle of the night too. They're on Twitter and Facebook and God knows what else. And within 24 hours, okay, 350 million people had heard about this in a day. I mean, that's insane. The population of this country is 315 million, just as a comparison, okay? So the bottom line is, there's a lot of people talking out there. Whether you're using social media or not, a lot of folks are, okay? And Orlando Universal Studios, they understood social media. And in particular, they understood that conversations are markets, okay? Conversations are markets. If you want to access your market on the internet, you have to participate in the conversation. That's what I'm talking about, is being active and sharing your passion and sharing your love for square dance and for calling and all these things that you guys obviously love so much to come to Reno and share with the rest of your community. Okay? Conversations are markets. Participate, be active, right? All right. When I first, this is just a comparison now, again, these books, I was astonished. You know, when I flew here, I literally had 2 suitcases full of books, and they were heavy. I had 37 of them, and I actually have 2 left. I had 3, but I was downstairs having breakfast, and someone came up and said, "Can I buy one?" I was like, "All right, so now I've got 2." But it's on Amazon or whatever else. But the bottom line is, when I first launched my book, I summarized the book into 300 marketing tips, and I released those tips as tweets on Twitter. Right? So I know you probably can't read this in the back, but I'll just read the top one. Conversations are markets, so we just talked about that. Participation plus facilitation equals opportunity. More tips at, and there's a link to my website. Do you see what's happening here? I'm introducing myself. Let me say it differently. I'm demonstrating my expertise, right, in the middle of a high-traffic website called Twitter. And if people don't care, that's okay. The culture on Twitter, it doesn't matter. You're not offending anybody. But if they are interested, they can click over and learn what I'm up to, right? So there's all kinds of, what words can you search for? What tips can you share, right? I mean, I did this in a weekend. I'm sure you've got 100, 200, 300 tips easily that you could put together about dancing and how it affects your life. And share. I'm not saying it's the only thing you do on Twitter, but it's an example of things that you might want to do. And there's some great case histories on Twitter. This one's one of my favorites. So JetBlue, you guys all know JetBlue. JetBlue actually has a staff of people that they pay salaries to, who are on Twitter every day searching for people who are tweeting the word Southwest. Think about this. Genius. And in particular, they're looking for people who are saying not so nice things about their competitor. Right? Think about the opportunity. So they can reply in real time to people who need what they're buying, need what they're selling, I'm sorry, and talk to them precisely when they're pissed off with the competition. Like, this is borderline evil. But it's awesome. Okay, so what words can you search for? And so I make my living by stealing people's ideas. So this is a woman who's not. This is another funny thing. Whenever you use a case history from something you've done personally, 9 times out of 10 they don't want you to use their photo. So this is actually not her, but this represents a woman that I worked with. This just gives you an example. She had a little flower store, like a florist shop. It's a small little place. I mean, it was like tiny. Okay? And we set up a local Twitter audience for her, which is pretty easy to do. And she got online every morning and searched for people who tweeted the word congratulations, baby, wedding, right, a handful of other things. And where appropriate, she could scan through in just a couple of seconds. And where appropriate, she could say, hey, congratulations from us as well. Come on in and get a free flower. Look, most people didn't do it, right? Most people didn't come in. But some did. And more than half bought something when they were there. Like, she's using the waste of time Twitter to get new customers. Right? So what words can you search for? Or better yet, what phrases can you search for? You can go to search.twitter.com. This is what it looks like. And you can search for anything you like. Now, and I'm going to give you an example because about a third of my business is in the insurance space. Those people have more conferences than anyone. So I wonder if any of them have gone to 41 conferences in a row. I doubt it. Anyway, I want to do an example. Don't search for a word, because if I just search for insurance, all I'm going to do is find all the competitors. So what I did is I searched for a phrase. Here's the question. What's a phrase that would identify to you that this person is someone who might want to come square dancing? What's a phrase, okay? Because Twitter is a conversational platform, so people making conversational statements to their followers. Okay, so I searched for new insurance, just to see what would come up. And this was literally the first page of results, and I know you can't read it in the back, that's fine. But this was literally the first page, and there was like 3 different tweets that basically said, hey, I'm looking for a new insurance. Does anyone have any suggestions? I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy smokes. And imagine, there's hundreds of these pages every single day. There's tons of this kind of stuff. Right? So these insurance people, if they wanted to, could reply with something like, hey, I saw your tweet about insurance. That's what we do. Here's a free PDF report with some answers. Right? In other words, giving them something of value. Right? Here's the thing, right? If you're doing anything online, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever else, create something you can give away for free. Right? Like maybe, well, I've got examples in a second, so I'll get to that in 2 seconds. But the bottom line is, you don't want to pitch. Most people go on there and just pitch their product all the time. If you're introducing yourself to someone you don't know online, it's much better to give them something first rather than just pitch, right? So find something to give them. So I always look for examples that kind of drive these things home, and a lot of them are kind of boring, so I don't like to use them. But I found one recently that I thought was genius. So here's this woman, okay? And she's a dentist in Boston. And let me see if I got this right. So she graduated in the spring of 2007, opened up her practice in the fall of 2007, and in the spring of 2008, she wrote this 20-page ebook. Okay, and she gave it away for free on her blog and on social media. Okay, so what's the ebook called? Healthy Mouth, Healthy Sex. This is genius. Okay? It's genius. And by the way, if anyone's been like intimidated by a 20-page report, I downloaded it. That's how I got this screen capture. It's like 14-pitch font, double-spaced, huge margins. She took like a 4-page document and like stretched it. Okay? And there's like diagram. Like it's a fun doc. It's a hygiene document. Okay? And it's nothing, pornographic or anything. It's just like a brush your teeth, right? Is basically the message. But the bottom line is, this thing really took off because it was fun. It was fun and it was interesting, right? And so her sales in 2008 were $150,000. 2 years later, in 2010, they were over $1 million. Because how many dentists are in Boston? Hundreds. How many are you aware of? 1. This stuff is not rocket science, right? People are always looking for viral. They want something to go viral, right? That's what everyone's talking about. Do you know what viral is? Viral is when someone gets something, they're like, hey, this is pretty cool. Hey, check this out. That's it. That's it. So what can you create that inspires the response? Hey, this is pretty cool. Check this out. And then just give it away to everybody. Just give it away. Right? So I just did, you could do something with like different square, all the different diagrams. I mean, I pulled these off of the internet, but you could do anything. Like, what's something that you could create that you can just give away for free? Here's how to do this. Right? Some people are going to be like, hey, this is pretty cool, and they might pass it along. Right? Simple ideas. Little things. Nurtured leads spend 47% more than non-nurtured leads. What's a nurtured lead? A nurtured lead is someone you give something to, someone you stay in touch with. Right? Someone you're in touch with on a regular basis. And I know we're not talking about spending money here, but the equivalent is they're going to show up and dance, right? Getting interaction is staying in front of them and giving them content and showing them, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, and all of a sudden, 2 months later, they show up. I've seen you guys for months, and I want to give it a try. Right? That's how this stuff starts, right? We talked about Meetup yesterday. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but Meetup is a platform. It's an online platform that helps people organize offline events. Okay, I'm going to say that again. It's super important, right? It's an online platform that helps people organize offline events. It is the perfect bridge between getting the word out online and getting people to show up. I had a Meetup group. I was a member of a Toastmasters group for 6 years. And I created a Meetup for the Toastmasters group. And it ended up becoming the #1 source of new leads to our club. And since yesterday, 3 different people, one actually spoke at the microphone yesterday, but 2 others came to me, one last night and one this morning, and told me stories about the fact that they use Meetup. And they weren't telling me these incredible success stories of dozens of people showing up, but they were saying it did actually work. There were some people who came. We saw promise. Right? We saw a promise. Proof of concept. That's something I always say. Proof of concept, there's potential there. Right? So how can you use a platform like Meetup? If you haven't checked it out, see on the top here, it says find a Meetup or start a Meetup. And when you start, you can start a Meetup and do it for your dancing. And other people are going to Meetup and they're searching for things like dancing. Right? Dancing lessons. And your Thursday evening event or whatever you might do will show up as an activity that they want to participate in. Consumers who receive emails spend 83% more and order 20% more often. Again, I know it's a commercial reference, but the point is that when you're a member of Meetup and you join a group like that, you're going to get an email every time there's an event coming up. Right? So a lot of this you can automate. You don't have to be on your computer all the time writing these emails and doing all this stuff. There's platforms where you can set it up and it'll run on its own. Make sense? Craigslist. And we had just a quick repeat. We talked about this yesterday. You would be astonished how many people check the Craigslist calendar to see what's going on. Post your stuff. Post your events. Right? This is another one in the Bay Area. And finally, there's one. This is a platform called Full Calendar. And it's pretty astonishing. It only is available in certain communities. And if you can't read it in the back, and I'm just going to quickly run through them. Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, New York, Phoenix, Portland, Sacramento, San Diego, San Francisco Bay Area, Seattle, and DC. If you're in one of those communities or close to one of those communities, you can pay $20 to Full Calendar, and they will populate like more than 300 online calendars. They'll put your stuff all over the place. And one time I held a workshop in San Francisco, and the only thing I did was put it on Full Calendar, and 28 people showed up. I'm not saying it's going to happen for square dancing in DC, but it did happen for small business marketing in San Francisco. It's worth trying. For $20, it's worth a shot. All right. One last repeat here, and then we'll get into some new stuff. But this is important. Law of diffusion of innovation. The truth is that this is law of diffusion of anything. This is how information spreads. Okay, and you have the innovators and early adopters on the far left, early majority, late majority, and then you have the laggards in the back. And yesterday I said that these laggards, the only reason they buy touch-tone phones is because rotary phones aren't in the stores anymore. So, and some of us are laggards. Some of us are laggards, right? We have to be aware of that. Okay? But the bottom line is that there's a tipping point right around 16 to 18%. Once you get 16 to 18% to come or show interest, then all of a sudden it can go on its own. Right? It starts to go on its own because a lot of people won't go to dancing. A lot of them are scared. They're intimidated. They think I can't follow the beat properly, or they're nervous. They want to make a fool of themselves. So a lot of people won't try it until one of their friends has already tried it. Right? That's how this sort of stuff works. So you got to find those innovators, those first 16 to 18%, get them involved, and then the word can start to spread. Right? It could be 16% if you're a church, right? Or some social group, seniors, whatever. It could be anything. By the way, let's talk about that as well quickly. There's 2 target markets for this. There's people whose children are already grown and left home, and they can now go back to dancing. And there's people who don't have children yet, and they can go dancing. 2 very different markets. In the middle, it's hard, because these parents are running all over the place with their kids, right? So, and the instinct is to say, we should go after these young people. And I agree that that's an awesome target to go for, but it's chapter 2. Chapter 1 is up here. This is the lowest hanging fruit. And there are hundreds of thousands of people in their 60s and 70s who are at home alone, they're lonely, and they want to socialize, and they don't know how to do it. So let's go after them first and worry about the young people after. I'm a huge fan of it. I'm a dancer myself. Not square dancing, but salsa. There's similar issues. But let's go for the lowest hanging fruit first and fill the hall so you've got a room full of energy and people having fun, right? And then you can start to leverage off of that. All right. I have to tell you this story. It's a big enough room. How many of you raise chickens in your backyard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right, it's pretty interesting. Turns out, this is a big trend. People are raising chickens in their backyards. The only pet that makes you breakfast? You guys know that? I didn't get that up. That's their tag on, right? This is a big trend. Now, this website, if you go to Google and you search for anything chicken related, Backyard Chickens is going to show up. Okay, it's a huge website. It's a forum with 250,000 active members. Okay, and this is insane. It's cyclical. Depends on the time of year. It generates between 10 and 15 million page views a month. Okay, it's unbelievable. Well, one of my best friends built this website from scratch. Okay.
No fun.
No pun intended.
Should have known. And he is making a ton of money. And it's annoying. I mean, I'm bitter, I admit it. Because, I'm here working.
Really?
He's just at home. But this thing is a cash cow, or a golden goose, or whatever you want to call it, okay? But that's beside the point, okay? Bottom line is, this website is a huge thing. So Rob, guy's name's Rob, calls me one day, this is like 2 years ago, and he was all upset and freaking out. And I was like, dude, what's going on? And he said to me, he said, somebody's killing me on Facebook. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, he owns Google in the chicken niche. But it turns out on Facebook, some guy's killing him on Facebook. And I was like, okay, lay it on me. Who is your arch nemesis on Facebook? The Chicken Whisperer. You can't make this up. Really? The Chicken Whisperer. True story. The Chicken Whisperer was killing him on Facebook. Now, anyway. So, and Rob's a pretty competitive guy. So he's like, we got to do something. And he knows this is what I do. So one of the reasons Facebook has done so well is they've made it very easy for people and businesses to buy likes. Now, a lot of people hear that phrase and immediately get offended. Buy likes. They don't like that. Okay? But look, guys, it's just a question of getting in front of audience. We just looked at the law of diffusion of innovation. We've got to get to that 16 and 18%. The truth is that finding those innovators is easier than you think, and it doesn't have to cost a lot either. Okay? Buying likes is just a way of promoting your page so that people on Facebook like it, and now they're in your audience, and they're in that first 16%, and if they like what you're doing, you're going to get to 18 and 20 and 22 and 24 and 26. It's a way to get started. So we set up a campaign for Backyard Chickens on Facebook, and there's different ways to promote your page on Facebook. There's lots of things online. My book goes over it, but you don't need my book to do that. There's a ton of places online that can have different ideas. But the bottom line is we started this campaign, and we really optimized it, and he ended up accumulating 37,000 likes on Facebook, and it ended up costing him an average of 22 cents per like. That's not a lot of money. Right? Now, the chicken niche is not very competitive. Right? But I'll tell you something, neither square dancing. So if you want to do this, you can probably get a similar, let's say it's a quarter a like. I don't know what it is. Okay? But let's assume you end up getting it for 25 cents a like. Let me tell you something. If you got 1,000 likes in your community, and if you paid $200-300 for it, it will change your business. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Now the worst thing, and by the way, the targeting is insane. This is what I'm saying. Facebook's done a really good job of this. You can target people who have already liked other pages that you specify. So you can go to other dance-related pages and say, I want to target these people. Or for example, these are the biggest pages on Facebook with the word dancing in it. Okay? This is easy to find, right? Biggest pages with dancing. And here's, I just did San Francisco because that's where I'm from. So you could do, in other words, like you could do people who like this dancing page and like this San Francisco page. The intersection of those two is exactly my target market because there are people who like dancing and they're in San Francisco. More than likely, right? So there's ways to target and find people in a very, very effective way. To find your, in other words, getting that 16%. It doesn't have to cost a lot and it doesn't have to be difficult. Promoting a page on Facebook in your local community, you can do demographics and everything. You can say married couples from 50 to 75 or whatever you wanted, right? Whatever you wanted, who also like these pages. Getting an audience does not have to be that hard. And then you can, now, one of the worst things is to have a Facebook page that's just stale, stagnant. There's tons of this kind of stuff out there where people, and it can almost hurt you more than it helps you. If you have a Facebook page that's not active, then people might like it at the beginning, but you're not doing anything, so they might unlike it or they just ignore it and it just becomes a waste of time. Okay? So how do you use a Facebook page effectively? Well, it turns out that that's not that difficult either. And we did this yesterday, but I want to repeat it here. And again, I know in the back, you're not going to be able to read this. I checked before, and it's really blurry. But this is from a company called Performance Bike. I do some speaking in the bicycle industry, and that industry actually has some similarities with this because it relies on people who are really passionate about biking to make up that 16% to get other people to start biking. Okay, so there's some similarities. But anyway, these people do a great job of using their Facebook page. And at the end here, it says, do you remember your first real road ride? Question mark. And a great image. Okay? Here's another one. Are you ready to find some good roads this weekend? Question mark. And a great image. Okay, where's the pattern? Here's one last one. When was the last time it happened to you? Question mark. And a great image. Right? Turns out that Facebook posts that end with a question get twice as many comments. Right? So you get that interaction. You get that. What happens when I comment on a post on Facebook? It goes on my wall. It says, Patrick just commented on the Square Dance Callers page. And it's linked. And not all of my friends are going to see that or care, but some of them might be like, oh, wow, Square Dance, they might click on it. And now they see it. It's a way to get the word to spread. Okay? So using a Facebook page and having great images, right, and putting questions, and advertising in the beginning to get your first 500 or 1,000 people there, that will make a difference. Like, I guarantee it. I don't know how big of a difference, but it will make a difference. There's no question. So look at this. This is another company that uses Facebook well. All these companies are just random companies, but they use the medium really well. Okay? So Sprinkles, they make cupcakes, right? So, and I just found this once when I was sitting actually in a coffee shop in Denver, but let me read this. Start spreading the news. Sprinkles opened in New York this spring. The first 50 people who whisper Big Apple at each Sprinkles receive a free Manhattan mocha. That's a little incentive. They gave a little incentive there. Guys, it is remarkable what people will do for a cup of coffee. But let's keep reading, okay? Want to be invited to our sneak peek event? Email so-and-so. Boom. That's a second incentive. This is just one post, okay? But the third one is the best one. 5 random people who comment on today's post will receive a coupon for a free cupcake. That's a third incentive. Guys, it's a free cupcake. Right? What's the cost of a free cupcake? Yeah, I know they charge like $4, okay? But what's the actual cost? Right? 13 cents. Let's say it's a quarter. Okay? They're giving away 5 of them. So this is they're throwing down $1.25. Now, when I found this post, it had been liked by 47 people, and they had 328 comments competing for 5 cupcakes. Can you believe this? Incentives. Incentives are huge on the internet. Tiny little incentives, right? They don't need micro incentives for micro actions. Seriously, just chew on that, okay? Micro incentives for micro actions. Give a tiny little incentive for a tiny little action. And the best, one of my favorite examples, simple stuff, guys. One of my favorite examples is right here. So this is one of these fancy grocery stores in the Bay Area. It's like Whole Foods, but it's not Whole Foods. Anyway, they make these chocolate chip cookies, and you can smell them like a block away, right? You ever walk in like into a shopping mall and you know there's a Cinnabon? It's the same deal, right? You don't know where it is, but it's in that mall somewhere. Well, you get out of your car in this parking lot, you can smell these darn cookies. Right? Everyone wants a cookie. Well, on weekdays, between 3 and 5 o'clock, they're free if you check in on Facebook. Genius. Okay? Think about what happens. Okay? Checking in takes 7 seconds, right? If you're slow. And do you know what else Facebook does? Right? You guys all have phones. They invite you to take a photo to post along with your check-in, right? And most people do. So here's all these people, many of them are kids, taking pictures of themselves eating chocolate chip cookies at Paradise Foods, and the whole community knows that they're giving away chocolate chip cookies. And the whole community knows they're giving them away, right? When people come to your square dance sessions, their lessons or whatever, give them an incentive to check in on Facebook. Hey, I'm square dancing tonight. Guys, most people are in a boredom trance. They are zombies. They are bored. That's the biggest cancer in our society today is boredom. Right? So when people are at a square dancing thing, inside they take some amount of pride. They're like, I am here dancing. And they know that a lot of other people are at home not dancing, or watching TV, right? Or drinking beer. Right? I mean, it's endemic. Give them a reason to share it. The reason they don't share it is because they never even had the idea. As soon as you give them an idea to share it, they're like, oh, it's a great idea. And they're super happy to do it. And then it goes on a Facebook wall. And if you have, 8 people at your square dance class, maybe it ends up on 6 out of the 8 walls. And they all have friends. And so next time, a week later or a month later, maybe you have 11. And then maybe you have 14. Right? And it goes. Right? It starts. This is a beer festival. It's funny, actually. Anyway, in Sacramento, it's a friend of mine who was living here. Anyway, so they had this thing set up where you could get your picture taken. So everyone was lining up to get their picture taken. Look what they did. It's all branded at the bottom with the logo, and there's a website down there. And the backdrop is all branded as well. Okay? And there's hundreds of these photos being posted on Facebook. Right? Tons of this kind of stuff. I did an event. Tim Ferriss, actually, I forgot about this slide. Who here knows Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Work Week? He's an author. The 4-Hour Work Week. Okay, only a couple people. That's okay. The guy is actually, he's a very, very smart guy. And he had a contest on Facebook where in order to win a prize, to be eligible to win a prize, you needed to post a photo of yourself holding his book. Okay? So he's got this is an advertisement. It's an ad. There's hundreds of these. Right? These are ads. They're subtle. They're not pissing anybody off, but it's an ad. And I did this event in Houston for Comcast, and they had this green screen studio set up, and this was a company was doing this, and you could get, it was Christmas time, or it was November, it was coming up to Christmas, and so people were getting these pictures taken, and then they had these different backdrops that you could superimpose your picture on. And so they were kicking out photos that looked like this. This was just one of the options. And it was fun, right? It was holiday oriented. And people were posting this stuff on Facebook, right? I did another event in Orlando in December, and they had this set up. Guys, there was nobody standing here. There was just the backdrop, the red carpet, these 2 little ropes, and 2 lighting stands. And there were literally people lined up to take pictures because everyone wanted to stand on the red carpet. Do you understand how simple this stuff is? Give people an excuse. Like, you don't have to push and pull with anybody to get them to do this. Just align the incentives. Right? People enjoy doing this kind of stuff. One day I was flying out of SFO, and I had a lot of these 6 a.m. departures because West Coast to East Coast, a lot of the flights are early. And this is also in the holidays. Anyway, they had these things set up, and you can put your face through here. This was like 4:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning because the flight left at 6. And there were people, I'll tell you something, it's 5 in the morning, I'm not putting my face through. But there were people, doing this kind of stuff. No one was asking them to do it. Guys, they're ads. These are ads. These are Twitter hashtags in here. And people were posting stuff. Just give people an excuse. Just give people a reason to share. Give people a reason to share that they're actually doing something fun in their life. Right? They're doing something fun. People are proud of that. People are proud of the fact that they're out, they were dancing. Right? Just give them a reason to share it. They'll share it. Anyone here know this guy? Or heard of him? Gary Vaynerchuk. Anyone heard of Gary Vaynerchuk? Oh, shame on you people. He's a well-known guy, but he's young. He's in a different genre for sure. But he is a 31-year-old guy, and he's like a crazy, like an ADHD kind of crazy, just like manic guy. And he inherited his parents' retail wine store, a place called Wine Library, just in New Jersey, right across, basically New York. So he inherits the store, and what's the first thing he does? He starts a video blog called Wine Library TV. Okay? And I'm telling you, he's crazy. I mean, he literally eats dirt and chews leather to talk about the flavors in wine. He's not, your French sommelier. But the kids love him, right? And by the way, he uploaded a new video almost every day. So this is no small undertaking. But he increased his family business from $4 million to over $60 million a year. He did that in 18 months. 18 months, this guy, and 2/3 of the orders were online orders. His parents never once took an online order. He started that. 2/3, right? You do the math, right? 2/3 of 60 million. He went from 0 to $40 million in online business in 18 months. Because he was demonstrating his expertise in the middle of a high-traffic website. He's doing exactly what we're talking about. These stories are all the same. They're all the same. How can you get your content in the middle of a high-traffic website? How can you give people an incentive to share their content in the middle of a high-traffic website, like Facebook, or like Twitter, or like Instagram, or YouTube, or whatever, all these crazy platforms that I'm sure most of you instinctively wish never were even founded. But I'll tell you something, I'm 43, and I don't love social media. There's parts about it that I think are a serious pain in the neck. It's a pain to keep up with. But it is the reason my career exists. It is no joke. If you knew, I could sit here for 2 hours and tell you the blow by blow. The internet is the only reason that my career has done well. So you can't get the word out. Okay? And a lot of people think that YouTube is still just a platform reserved for videos about cats, right? Or kids falling off their bikes or something. The fastest growing category of new content on YouTube is how-to educational content. And it's astonishing because I just got a few examples just to show you. WordPress tutorial. WordPress is a platform where you can build a blog. You don't need to know that. But if you wanted to know it, go to YouTube. There's thousands of videos showing you how to do that. Right? If you want to, by the way, if you want to learn how to do any of this stuff, go to YouTube and say, how do I post something on a Facebook page? And you're going to find a video showing you how to do it. Okay? Free. Okay? But look at this. I searched for business marketing. Look at this first video, small business marketing coach. What's this guy doing? He's marketing. Right? He's demonstrating his expertise. Look at this. Stock market investing, the first video. Tips for the complete beginner. This guy's demonstrating his expertise. And you'd be amazed at how far this stuff goes. Look at this. How to change an alternator. This video's been watched 90,000 times. It's branded with the garage. I'm sure they're busy. Here's another one. How to read a good faith estimate. This must be the most boring topic in the world. There's a video about it. And this one, this is a lady who came to one of my workshops like 3 years ago. And she came up at the end, she was like, this is great stuff. She's an online business selling premium foods like caviar and foie gras and truffle mushrooms, only online, it's all online. She comes up and she's like, I'm going to make a video to promote my business. And I'm like, that's awesome. But just one video? How many products do you sell? She says, I sell 85 products. Make 85 videos. One for every product and optimize them all. See, look, can you read that? I don't need to read it. The title of this video is Black Truffle Oil, White Truffle Oil, and Truffle Juice. Well, it turns out that this phrase is not very competitive. Okay? Nobody's trying to get that phrase because no one's going into that level of detail. Right? And then see what she did? We've got the website. I helped her do this. She's got the website here and then also here underneath in the video description. Right? So if people find it, and she didn't make 85 videos, by the way. I wish she did, but she didn't, whatever. But we made 27 of the videos, no joke. Her revenue doubled, and it was instant. Because before, there were people on YouTube searching for white truffle oil and not finding her. And now, there are still people on YouTube searching for white truffle oil, and they do find her. Right? It's like when I first came out with my books had got 80 chapters. So I made a video for every chapter. Right? Everything we were talking about is stuff I've done. Okay? So I set up a tripod just like this, and I was like, hi, my name's Patrick, and today we're going to talk about chapter 28. Okay? And then I'd say a few words about it, and then I'd catch my breath, and the video camera is still recording. Hi, my name's Patrick, and I wrote this book, and today we're going to talk about chapter 29. And I just did one after another, after another, after another, all day. It took 3 days, and then afterwards I chopped them up and uploaded them as separate videos. And a friend of mine said to me that she thought that I should change my clothes.
At least you're tiny, maybe.
No one's going to watch 80 videos. Every chapter is about something different. They're going to be looking for whatever they're looking for. They're going to find one of my videos. They're not going to know that there's 79 others where I'm wearing the same outfit. Do you guys get it? There's 180 calls in square dancing, or the 54 plus 18 plus 36 plus whatever, C1, C2 plus challenge. Oh my God. It's a whole lexicon I didn't even know existed. Do you have any idea how many different things you could optimize for? My God, if you've got enough content to make a 10-minute video, don't make a 10-minute video. Make 10 one-minute videos. And optimize them each separately. Just blanket the whole thing. So they can search for anything square dancing related, boom, they're going to find you. Right? And then put your location in there as well. Because most people search for square dancing in San Francisco. Square dancing in San Antonio. So put the location in the title. That's a key word too. Make sense? It's awesome stuff. Video square dance lessons. Lesson 12, lesson 6, lesson 13, lesson 7. Is the person who did these here? No? It's genius. You can do tons of this kind of stuff. Right? Very few people are doing it. I was happy to find this though. There's something to start. But you can do it. You can do tons of this kind of stuff. Tons of it. Consumers who watch product videos are 144% more likely to buy. Right? What does buy mean? It means they show up. It means they actually come. Right? If they watch a video, they're more likely to come. So get a video, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere. Right? Just get that video out there and let them see it. Let those people see it. I do the same thing. I have a video blog I started last March. And I have these videos. I put a new one out every single week, and it's made a huge impact on my business. Huge. And it was easy to do. It wasn't complicated. Right?
Say bye. There's the middle one.
I can't believe. Forget that slide.
Different background.
I did it later. I took her advice on that one. I should have done it because it contradicts my own point. This is my last, not my last, but this is the last YouTube case history. And we're in good shape here for time too. I got some stuff at the end that's important. But anyone familiar with Blend Tech? They make blenders, commercial and residential blenders. They manufacture here in the States, which is cool because, of course, most of them are manufactured somewhere else. But anyway, this is the CEO, by the way. This guy is like comedian funny. He's a very funny guy. But here's the story. Their chief marketing guy, his name's George, and that guy's pretty funny too. Anyway, isn't it funny? It's interesting how like funny people hire funny people. Like you go to some companies and everybody's funny, and that's like the culture of the company. But anyway, so George is in charge of marketing, and they have a room in their one of the factories is in Utah, and the room is for quality control, so where they test the blenders and stuff. And he walked in one morning, and the whole floor was covered with like chips of wood and sawdust, basically. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And the guy, I've spoken at the same conference as this guy. The way he tells the story is awesome. But the guy said, "We're just testing the blenders," and he was like, "How do you test it?" And the guy said, "This is a true story." He said, "We blended a 2x4." and the blender lived. The 2x4 died. That's unbelievable. And George just got it. He's like, "That is awesome. We need to get it on video." And so they started this series called Will It Blend? And they had the CEO wearing this white lab coat, blending all kinds of stuff, including marbles and golf balls. They blended a full-size rake into a glass. And this here is an iPad. They blended an iPad. And the whole thing completely turned to dust. On the video, they called it iDust. So, now their sales didn't go up 20%, 50%, they didn't double, they didn't triple. Their sales were up sevenfold. Wow. Because what did they do? They demonstrated the capabilities of their product in the middle of a high traffic website with a clever angle. Obviously that played a huge part. The stories are all the same. It worked because it was remarkable. Right? Think about the definition of the word remarkable. It was worth remarking about. That's what remarkable means, right? It's worth talking about. If it's not worth talking about, none of this is going to work, right? But if it's worth, what do you do that's worth talking about? What do you do that's remarkable, right? And we're going to get to that in 2 seconds. Okay, let me just, right here. So what's the killer? What's the formula behind all this? You've already seen a lot of these stories of similarities, okay? So let's just break it down. Number one, you've got to start with what do you do that's remarkable. Okay? If you don't start there, none of this is going to work. I know it sounds simplistic, but, and I'll tell you, you know what you do? I'm not square dance, okay? But anyone can look at it and say, you're building relationships. I bet you anything, you've had women and men meet each other and get married, because there's a lot of square dancing. Okay? You're building friendships that last a lifetime, right? Where people have fun socializing with each other and not being bored. You're helping people lose weight, right? You're helping people avoid therapy and antidepressant medication, and that is truer than many of us think. It's only 38%. The amount of antidepressant medication, and look, it has a purpose. Like, I totally get it. I mean, I've had, in my own family, I've had, depression is a chemical thing. I totally get it. But the bottom line is that activity can mitigate symptoms of depression. Doing this type of stuff changes lives. That's what you do that's remarkable. Those are the stories. Okay. Number two. This is one you haven't heard yet. Okay. How do you demonstrate what you do that's remarkable in a visual way? Okay, there's different types of content. We went over this yesterday. There's text, there's audio, there's photos, there's video. What's the most viral of those four?
Video.
What's second? Photos. Turns out people like interacting with visual content. When they have visual content, they're more likely to share it with their friends. That's what we want. We want them to share it with their friends. Hey, this is pretty cool. Check this out. That's what we're after. If it's visual, you have a higher chance of that happening. Okay? Now, the third one is one that we didn't cover yesterday either, so it's completely different. So think about this for a second. The content can come from one of two places. You can create the content yourself and share it in the public domain. Maybe some of you already have some ideas of things you could do. Okay? Or the content can come from the people who are going dancing themselves. Which one's more viral?
The ones that are going dancing.
Now it's not a sales pitch anymore. Now it's a third-party endorsement. It's a totally different thing, right? So how do you incentivize your customers, your dancers, to demonstrate what you do that's remarkable in a visual way? That's the formula. That's the formula. That's the kind of stuff that works. And I've got some examples the last examples I have are on this concept, just to give you an idea of what this might look like. So a few years ago, the Australia Tourism Board had this campaign, which was a huge success. It was called The Best Job in the World. Some of you might remember this. And yeah, I see, awesome. So the deal was that you get $100,000 for a 6-month contract. That's a pretty good start. You get to live in a beautiful 2-story house in an island in the middle of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Right? Just a gorgeous location. You get all the kite surfing, parasailing, scuba diving equipment you can handle. Go enjoy the reef. The only requirement of the job is you have to write 1 blog post every day for the website. Pretty good job. I think it qualifies perhaps as the best job. Okay. So how do you apply? Okay. Well, you have to submit a video, 1 minute or less, telling them why you should be the person for this job. So they ended up getting almost 35,000 videos from, for the most part, young, beautiful human beings, right? I mean, realistically, talking about how incredible the Great Barrier Reef was. And these videos didn't all get uploaded to their website. They all got uploaded to 35,000 individual YouTube channels, each of which had its own following. Like the PR bump that they got from the application process was already it was an outstanding value before the job had even begun, because they got massive publicity. And they weren't the ones giving it. They empowered the people, right? They empowered the people. You say what's great about the reef, and they got insane response. So here's another example, and this one's much more sobering, okay? Just opposite end of the spectrum. This was an oncology clinic, and I'll say as well, just my mother had breast cancer, and breast cancer has touched my life in a number of ways. I'm sure it's touched many of yours. I totally get it. Okay? So let's just put that aside for a second. How do you market a company like this? I mean, that's a tricky thing to do right there. So they had a campaign, brilliant, where they invited their employees. The campaign was called "What Motivates You?" What motivates you? And they invited their employees, their nurses, their techs, their physicians, their PAs, to submit videos. Why are you motivated to be a nurse, or be a PA, or be a physician? And as it turns out, people who become nurses quite often have incredibly powerful stories of why they chose that career. It's not like real estate agents. I'm sure there's real estate agents in this room. Nothing against real estate agents, okay? But it's different. It is different. I'm sorry, guys, but it's different. Like, there was a video, there was a girl, she was like crying in the video. Her mother had died as a child, and she became a nurse. Like, these are, the shivers down your spine. You're thinking about some of this stuff. So now, if you imagine in your mind's eye that you're in a city with 3 different clinics who all do oncology, but one of them, they all have great employees, undoubtedly. But 2 of them, those stories haven't been told. And one of them, they have been told. And so you start to identify with Sarah or Jennifer or Dr. Jake or whatever, right? And you see their stories, and the marketing was tremendous, just showcasing the talent that they already had, right? Some of the people who come to your dance classes are really good dancers, and they've been doing it for decades. Who's told that story? How did they get into it? How did it change their life? Like, that's the kind of stuff that you can share. I did a campaign myself. I don't do a lot of consulting anymore, but I used to do some. And there was a company in San Francisco that makes like enhancement devices for wheelchairs. Okay, and we did a campaign where we invited their existing customers. Okay, we encouraged them to send us a video showing us how you're using the product, and the most creative and best videos that win some prizes. The prizes weren't that big. And we got these unbelievable, I mean, just stuff that would blow your mind. How many people have been to San Francisco? Do you guys know Lombard Street? Okay. Some guy, like, dude's got no legs, okay? Like an Iraq veteran or whatever. going up. I mean, are you kidding? Seriously, like, it just, you watch that stuff and you're like, you gotta be joking. And it changes the whole game, right? Because you see that this guy's got a life. He's just a guy just like any of you, doing stuff, right? You guys are, you know, like the quarterback of a bunch of really inspiring stories, and I'm willing to bet most of them never been told. There's an opportunity. So it can be inspiring. That word inspiring, it truly can be inspiring for other people. Wow. That's the kind of stuff, right? So what's your story? And what's their story?